50%. That's what the WNBA Players Association is demanding, half of every dollar the league generates. And if they don't get it, they've threatened to blow up the entire 2026 season. Here's the problem with that threat. The moment Caitlin Clark walked onto the Team USA practice floor, it collapsed. You've been watching this labor war build for months, and what just happened at the national team camp isn't a sidebar story. It's the central chapter. Because while union leaders were crafting their hostage narrative, guaranteed maximums, free housing, a 50% revenue split, Clark quietly stepped onto the biggest international basketball stage on earth and reminded every sponsor, every network executive, and every billionaire owner exactly who the sport cannot function without. This isn't about practice highlights. This is about leverage, and the veterans just lost theirs. If this breakdown is giving you the clarity the mainstream coverage keeps skipping over, tap that like button. We're going places in this video that nobody else is willing to go. To understand what Clark just did, you have to understand the negotiating table she walked away from. The WNBA's current collective bargaining fight isn't a standard labor dispute. It's a reckoning 25 years in the making. For nearly 3 decades, this league operated as a financial dependent, propped up exclusively by NBA subsidies while bleeding cash at a scale that would have shuttered any standalone business. Teams ran on goodwill and infrastructure, borrowed from their male counterparts. The product survived, but it never truly grew. Then, one draft pick changed the economics of the entire sport overnight. Clark's arrival didn't just sell tickets. It recalibrated what women's basketball was worth to television networks, to corporate sponsors, and to casual fans who had never previously engaged with the WNBA. Viewership records shattered. Revenue projections were rewritten. The league's negotiating position with broadcast partners transformed because of one player. And the veteran establishment, rather than recognizing what that meant for their own financial future, chose antagonism. The union's strategy entering this CBA negotiation rested on one central assumption, that the surge of new fan interest belonged to the players collectively, not to any individual. They believed the audience that Clark brought through the door would stay for the product regardless of whether Clark was on the floor. That assumption had one logical test, and the market ran it without anyone asking permission. The Unrivaled 3-on-3 League was supposed to be Exhibit A, a collection of veteran stars deliberately constructed to generate revenue and cultural relevance independent of Clark. Network executives at TMT bought in. The infrastructure was real. The marketing was aggressive. And the moment games tipped off without number 22 on the roster, viewership cratered. Fans didn't gradually drift away. They switched channels immediately. The ratings collapse wasn't a slow bleed. It was an instant verdict, and it got worse. Cornerstone players like Aliyah Boston suffered significant injuries in what were supposed to be low-stakes exhibition games, adding physical and financial liability on top of an already disastrous commercial outcome. The veterans played their most powerful card E, and the market returned its stamped insufficient funds. That result reframed every single demand on the negotiating table. When you claim 50% of league revenue as your baseline ask, you need to demonstrate that you generate league revenue. Unrivaled proved the opposite. Without Clark, the national broadcast audience vanishes. That's not an opinion, it's a ratings document. So what does Clark do with that reality? She doesn't tweet about it. She doesn't give interviews cataloging the union's failures. She shows up to Team USA camp and plays basketball in a way that makes the WNBA's labor chaos look like exactly what it is. A small, manufactured crisis built by people who confused visibility with indispensability. Drop your read on this in the comments. Do you think the union leadership understood what Unrivaled's failure meant for their leverage before Clark stepped onto that international stage, or did it take watching her play to finally see it? Because that answer tells you everything about whether this CBA gets resolved before the 2026 season disappears. The footage coming out of that camp tells a story that no press release could engineer. Clark, Breanna Stewart, and the next generation of American basketball talent competing with visible, unforced joy, running drills, laughing, yelling USA in unison. There is no manufactured tension. There's no labor grievance poisoning the environment. There are elite athletes who love what they do, doing it at the highest level. That contrast is not accidental. While union vice presidents were leaking internal letters to ESPN begging for basic transparency from their own leadership, Clark was operating in an environment defined by accountability and shared purpose. The psychological gap between those two realities is the most honest broadcast the WNBA could possibly air right now. And Clark didn't have to say a word to transmit it. The PR damage to the union's strike strategy is difficult to overstate. Their entire communication campaign has been built around a narrative of oppression, billionaire owners grinding down underpaid athletes. That narrative requires the players to look like victims. Clark, standing on the Team USA floor, radiating competitive excellence and genuine enthusiasm, actively destroys that framing in real time. Sponsors watching that footage don't see a league in crisis. They see one investment that's safe, premium, and globally scalable. They see Clark. And then came the moment that functioned as a punctuation mark on everything. Late in a competitive camp session, Clark hits the game winner. Not a ceremonial exhibition moment, a competitive, pressure situation, game-winning shot. The reaction from teammates was immediate and unscripted. That clip didn't need a marketing budget. It traveled on its own because it captured something the labor dispute never will, the actual reason people watch this sport. If the depth of this analysis is what keeps you coming back, consider joining the channel as a member. Your support is what makes it possible for us to keep going deeper on the stories the mainstream sports media keeps glossing over. Here's where this leaves the WNBA heading into what could be the most consequential offseason in the league's history. The union can still threaten a work stoppage. That option remains technically on the table. But the negotiating leverage behind that threat has been fundamentally hollowed out by two consecutive data points, Unrivaled's collapse and Clark's Team USA dominance, that say the same thing in different languages. The engine that drives this sport's commercial future has already demonstrated it can operate on a stage bigger than the WNBA. The passengers still need the engine. The engine does not need the passengers. The veteran establishment built their entire CBA strategy around the belief that they had independent market value. The market tested that belief and returned a clear answer. The question now is whether union leadership recalibrates their demands to reflect that reality, or whether they press forward with a strike threat that billionaire owners now know is a bluff. If you want to be here when that answer drops, and the 2026 season timeline makes it coming soon, subscribe and hit the bell. We're tracking every development in this CBA fight, and the next video is going to pull apart exactly what a realistic deal looks like given everything that just shifted. You don't want to miss where this goes.